Here to explain is counselor with the Center for Discovery, Amethyst Basir. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me back.
You know, this is timely because a lot of people, kids are back in school. We're back trying to get back into our routines, basically. And now our calendars start to fill up. And I feel like if you have multiple kids, or even if you have one kid, the schedule can just be overwhelming. And let's just start there, because then everybody else's calendar starts filling.
Absolutely. And stress, this is such an opportune time to talk about this, because I'm thinking, I've got a niece and nephew who are 3, and they're going back to school, but I'm also thinking about college kids who are going maybe even out of state or moving, and financial stress that comes with going to college or even going back to school and starting to get back into work. So our body is releasing like hormones and chemicals when we're under stress, and we're basically in a position where we're trying to determine, hey, what actions do I need to take? So some of that could look like financial stress. It could be moving. It could be going back to school, getting back into a routine where like summer we're kind of like just a little bit more flexible and lenient, and now we're back into everything's got to be scheduled. Everything's got to be on the calendar. We're gonna forget. We've got to like plan for lunches. So it can take a toll on our relationships with ourselves, but also our family members, because we're kind of being a little bit more stringent, and sometimes that can feel a little like, I don't know, stuffy. That's like the word that's coming to mind. And sometimes we can forget about taking care of ourselves, oftentimes because we're so focused on making sure our household's running, making sure kids are taken care of, that sometimes we can like lose sight of, are we really checking in with ourselves?
I'm sure a lot of people can identify with some of the stressors that you just listed. When it comes to taking care of ourselves, what's some of your advice? How do we do that?
So one is like carving out time. We oftentimes like put in our calendars for like kids and stuff, and oftentimes we forget to like actually carve out time for ourselves, like whether that's like a workout class, or whether that's going to getting a manicure done every Saturday. Just like making sure we're putting that in our calendar makes us aware to like actually go do that task. Another thing can just be doing something that you like, finding a hobby, gardening, reading, just taking something that is like really important and a passion for you. It reinvigorates our sense of self. That can also look like taking a class. My sister and I were talking about this. Like we're curious by nature as humans. So learning new things can really be like a little jolt of like excitement and passion. And whether that's cooking, maybe learning a new language, that can be really like exciting and new. And that can really just give you a burst of, even if you don't have a whole lot of time. A lot of that stuff you can do at home, watch, YouTube video of a cooking show, or, like something on your app. There's so much stuff and access to resources now that it's really accessible for most people.
What I think is great, and I was sharing this with Derek a few hours ago, about how we always make sure that, spouses and partners, that we have that date night, and we're making sure that we do that. I think it's really important to recognize, if you have more than one child, or even if you have one child, make time for that child to have alone time with a single, you know what I'm saying? Like pairing up. So I will take one of the boys and my husband will take the other one, and kind of split up, as opposed to the family network. Right? Does that help?
That absolutely. I love that you brought that in, because I think hanging out as a family really is great. You're connected as a whole unit, right? But then oftentimes you get to miss opportunities of just connecting with that one person, because your kids are so different. And I'm even thinking about when my sister and I were growing up, we're so different as people, and we like different things. And that can include, like, if you and your son like a similar hobby, that's such a great way to connect with them and talk about that thing. And that also like kind of goes into my idea of like advocating and listening to your kids. Oftentimes kids have stressful moments, and as adults we might think like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like a big deal. You didn't get invited to Judy's sleepover. Like, there will be others. But for that child, it might be like such a big deal.
In that moment too.
In that moment, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so devastated I didn't get invited. All the other girls got invited. And so it's moments like that that you can really connect and listen and validate, and that, that sounds so hard. Like, I'm so sorry you didn't get invited. Let's go hang out and do something together. So it gives you opportunities to really connect with your kids, and I love that idea of like separating and then coming back together, and it gives a lot of different variations of spending time with your kids and really getting to know them. And it builds so much trust within you and the parent and the family unit.
And last point, very quickly, because we're out of time. Sometimes time spent together as the family, spouses can lose a bit of connection.
Yep.
Because even though they're together as a family, you say to preserve that relationship, we really need to carve out that one-on-one spouse time.
Absolutely. I always tell this to couples and families that the marriage is #1. Your kids are #1 too, and like your eyes in the sense of like containing, but your marriage is the foundation for your family. So making sure you have date night, making sure you spend time together, listen, go on and carving out that time together, getting help from friends or resources, family members, other parents to help you out when you need that time.
Put your oxygen mask on first,
Yes.
then your child. Amethyst, great to see you. Thanks for stopping
thanks so
by.
much.
And to connect with Amethyst or for more info, you can visit the Scene on Houston Life section of our website.